I want to talk a little bit about your history with Anna and Ryan. You guys both worked on Half Nelson, which was 2007.
We shot it in 2005. It came out in 2006.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about how they approach storytelling. I mean, you guys are producing partners. They are filmmaking partners. Let's talk first of all about how they approach material. This is a story that I think they developed while they were working on the film Sugar. Is that right?
Well, the inspirations for this were definitely from Sugar and spending time in Iowa and particularly the riverboat casinos and sort of observing that they got their roots at film school, but also in documentary films, and so they're very observational and like to tell stories of what they see. So Sugar is where the sort of the genesis of the idea came from.
And what do they bring to you, and at what point do you guys get involved? Is there a screenplay? Is there a cast? How far along are they?
This one was right at the very, very beginning. This was an idea. We were actually working on another script with them that we were trying to put together that was, sort of stopping and starting and trying to get cast, and cast would fall out. And in the sort of the frustration of doing that, they wanted to do something that was a lot smaller and a lot simpler than what this ended up being, which was, let's just do a two-hander about these two guys that go down the Mississippi and play poker, and they pitched this to us, and it was loose. It was basically going to be a very loose kind of outline, and then they were going to improvise the rest of the screenplay. So that's kind of how it started, and then they went on a research trip, and then slowly the screenplay started to develop, and then as the screenplay became fully formed, they worked on it more, and then it became an actual fully formed screenplay.
And was there a line item in the budget for gambling losses? Did they actually go, or was that the actor's responsibility?
It was the actor's responsibility, but it was definitely up for discussion at one point. But I think back to what Lynette said, I don't know exactly what Ryan would say, but if someone said, here's a bag of cash to go make your movie, I'm not sure they would have written the script. They probably would have said, let's take Ryan Reynolds and Ben Mendelsohn, let's get in the car, let's have a 15 pass follow us, and let's see where it goes. They probably would have written it out and written the day's scenes ahead of time, but they probably would have not shared a full script. But unfortunately, that's not exactly how the world of casting and financing works.
But that poses a very interesting question, because they have their style, they have their way of working, you have your style, your way of working, and their dream has to meet the reality of financing. So at what point do you say, I love the idea of we're going to go down the road and just kind of make it up as we go along, but that's not going to work in this world, and here's where we can meet halfway? What are those conversations like, Lynette?
I think it comes down to what tools you need and the people that you need, and a lot of their crew, they work with some of the same crew over and over again, and they're definitely in it with them, and we'll go to war for them. But at the same time, we made Half Nelson for under $1 million, and a lot of that crew was up and coming at that time, and now that crew is sort of 10 years later, they earn more money, and there's just a cost to wanting to shoot on film, and there's a cost to certain actors, and there's just a cost to this, and at a certain point, you say no one's going to give you the money that's required to make the movie you want to make in the way that you want to make it without a screenplay. And that's really where it came down to, was that, if we could have made the movie for $500,000 and just gotten in the car, then that's one thing, but that wasn't the reality of the resources that they needed. And they don't need a lot. They're certainly by any means gratuitous in what they require for their movies. Far from it, but it still was enough in this day and age with this kind of story that there needed to be more of a blueprint.
And I think that to some extent it happens probably in every film, but definitely every independent film, is that and the way Lynette and I work as producers, it's all about choices for the filmmaker. And it happened on this film, and it's saying, to Lynette's point, okay, well, if you want to do the film in this way and over this amount of time, this is what it's going to cost and it's going to take for that version of the film, and this is what comes with it. We had the same experience on Blue Valentine, which we produced together. Derek Cianfrance at one point wanted to take 6 years off between the past of Blue Valentine and the present. And then he wanted to take 6 months off, and then he wanted to take 3
Looking at
months.
Boyhood, maybe we should have done that.
But then he wanted to take 3 months off, and then you're trying to convince the bond company and the financier that you have to put all these people on hold for 3 months, and it's critical to the film. And and finally, he won with, he got 1 month in the end, and that's probably what he wanted from the start. He just said he wanted
Negotiated
more.
down.
But it's the same thing in every film, and those conversations are tough, and they're never fun when you're trying to give, as we work, we're trying to give our filmmakers every tool they can have to make their movie, and you just have to balance it.
This is obviously a fictional film, but that has a lot of verisimilitude in it. And I'm going to talk about a couple different elements. Let's talk about locations, about actually getting in casinos, riverboat casinos, big casinos, the negotiations that you have as filmmakers with those casinos. How willing or unwilling are they to let you film there? And what are the conversations that you have that persuade the right people to give you the access you need?
It was a lot more challenging, I think, than we thought. Partly because you have seen so many casino films where there's violence and drugs and prostitution, and they'd shot in real casinos, so we didn't really cross our mind. Well, if they've done that, then
Scorsese can do it. Why can't we?
yeah. Well, if we're just shooting guys playing cards, we're not really doing anything else. How challenging could it be? And it became the most challenging part of making the film, and
Was getting those locations.
Some of them were easier than others. Some of them were accommodating, but even ones that were accommodating, the location's still run by the state gaming board. So we wanted to use a specific slot machine and move it. Well, you can't just move a slot machine. The state gaming board has to come in to move a slot machine. So the challenge is you only shoot at certain times of day, and usually at night and really late
morning.
night. Yeah. So you have a lot of shoot days that are, 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. or 6 a.m.
Was there objection to what the script said? If they're willing to let The Hangover shoot in a big casino, what did they say specifically about this movie that they objected to?
I think the reality of it. I think that it felt very real, and it felt like the part of gambling that they don't want shown.
Right.
It's not
That people might lose?
The Hangover is all fun and games
Right.
and bravado, and this is very real.
They don't want to see
Difficult.
people who are losing their homes or losing their families. They want to see people who are high rolling and having fun and having a party. That's
Because that's what
gambling is.
happens
Yeah,
in every
that's what
casino,
gambling
right?
is.